All right, let's continue on. We've got our basic React application working. Now what I want to do is just jump right in there and get the application to work like that login application. So let's look at login again. And let me see, how do I get a new tab in there? So this will be the login application. I could have called it the click me application, but the main idea was to understand how login works. So we log out, and then we have this login page. So we have a login page. See this? So we're going to need a login page. Let's take a look. So here, just sort of rough this out at this point. This is going to be, we want our login. Sort of, I'm going to call it the login form. So this is a login form. So this is our, this is the login form. It's going to change the name. We're not going to pass this in anymore. This is going to be, login, the login form. Oh, I know what I want to do. I'm going to put everything inside an element that I call an app. So this is going to be the app. And this is going to be my app. This is the app. So basically we're going to render the app. All right, just going to keep it like that. And maybe I'll put that in one line. Just keep that really compressed there. Just one line. So render the app. Let's see if we get the app here. There's the app. Now the app is comprised of what? Now this return statement is going to get complicated, so I'm going to put a parenthesis here, see, and enclose it here. Now you got to do that when if you can't have in JavaScript, it's a sort of a flaw with the language. You can't have a return statement by itself on its own line because of automatic semicolon. If we left that out, the browser would insert, or the JavaScript compiler would insert a semicolon there. It's called automatic semicolon insertion. And so we want to make sure that doesn't happen. So when we want return to be on a single line, we got to follow it with a parenthesis and include the multiple lines afterward. Another thing is, I don't think we need this, do we? I think we can omit that. Let's see if that works. And now the login, this will be, this div here, it's going to be basically, we're going to have a, let's see if I can do this right. The application is going to initially just look like the login form. So it'll be an instance of the login form, just like that. I'll just get rid of that other div. There we go. It'll be multiple lines, so maybe. So I'll just show it like this for now. So basically, when we want to render, we create an instance of the app class here to get a React element. And this class is a render method. And when this app element is rendered, the process of rendering will create an instance of the login form class and call its render method. So it should still say login form. It should say login form. So that's how that works. Now, the login form is, I'm going to make this multiple lines here. Looks like that. Now the login form is going to have a section that says, username, colon, and then an input field. And then there's going to be another section called password. And the type is what is it, text, right? And here the type is password, and so it shows all stars. It's the same as a text field, text type, but it shows all stars for security reasons. And then there's going to be another input element following that, which is the submit button. I'm just going to tab that or space that over. The type is going to be submit. So this is a submit button. That, and the name, the value is going to be, I'm going to use apostrophes there. It's going to be login. Let's see. Now we're getting an error there. Unexpected token. And where is that? This is an unexpected token. So this is, oh, I see, this has to be a string, doesn't it? So this should be a, oh, by the way, when you return stuff, it has to be in a single element. So we're going to put everything inside this div. Everything inside the div element. And that's a requirement by React. And there's some mention that they're working on getting rid of that requirement. But for now, it's there. So the div element has these, is the text username, followed by an input element, a break, password, input element, another input element, and then we close the div there. And we are getting some error there. I don't know what that's for. Expected corresponding JSX closing tag for BR. So JSX doesn't like this as a, so basically these must be, are these self-closing? Well, I want to tell you something here. This looks like JavaScript, but it's not. This is valid JavaScript. That's valid JavaScript. That's valid JavaScript. Starting with line 7, that's not valid JavaScript anymore. So if the JavaScript compiler looks at this, they're going to say, I don't know what that div is. And so because, and it doesn't matter because this is not handled, this is not passed to the JavaScript system directly. It's passed to the that Babel library, which converts this into JavaScript. So this div is not, this is not an HTML div. That div right there refers to a built-in React class named div. So that the built-in classes, there's these built-in classes in React that mirror the main HTML elements like div, paragraph, h1, and so on. So this React class, this div React class, is used to ultimately generate an HTML div element. But when it's processed here as JSX code, this is considered a React class. And the other thing, notice that it's lowercase. So the built-in React classes start with lowercase, and the user-defined React classes must start with uppercase. So that's a requirement. All right, so the other thing I wanted to note here is look at this. If we take that out, okay, so this BR is not an HTML break element. This is a React. This BR is a reference to a React class, a built-in predefined React class. And the React is a little bit strict about enforcing the syntax. So if we have a break there, we need to have a closing break to go with it. See, that got rid of the error message. Or it can be self-closing, such as this. But if we don't do it, now look at that, the error message, parsing error, expected corresponding JSX closing tag for BR. Now, the Cloud9 editor is generating that error. That means the Cloud9 editor understands JSX. Is that amazing? How is that? The Cloud9 editor understands JSX. Is that because the Cloud9 has read this and says that, oh, you've included that in here, and so I'm going to go ahead and use this library? I don't think so. I think if I put some, if I change this name, I'm going to get the same warning here. I think that's independent. See, that's independent. This is built into the Cloud9 editor, and I just realized that for the first time just now, that Cloud9 actually supports syntax checking of JSX. This is fantastic. This is just a boon for us to have that. Unfortunately, this is requiring us to include these. It's not a big hit on us, but that could have been avoided too. So anyway, let's see what we get there. Do we get a login form or an error message? There's the login form. There we go. Now, when we log in, the thing is this. When we log in, we don't want to display the login form. We want to display the logout button. So let's create a React class that will generate the logout button and all the associated code that's needed to handle a click event on it. So it'll be react.create class. In create class, it takes an object. See that? It takes an object, and at a minimum, you need a render method. I'm just going to grab this render method right there. There we go. And this logout button is going to be something like, it'll just be a submit button by itself, something like that. It'll say logout instead of login, okay? So and because there's only one element in there, well, we have a break there, don't we? I'll leave it there for now. Because it's only one element, we don't need to wrap it in these divs. That's if we took that BR out. I'll leave it in there for now. Now, after we log in and we get into the logged in state, we don't want to render the login form, we want to render the logout button. So that's where this thing comes in. This app has to know the difference between whether I'm logged in or logged out. So it's going to look something like this. So, if we're logged in, then return the logout button. Else, return the login form. That's going to be the logic. So we'll have this variable logged in. Maybe I'm going to call it is logged in. Make it sound like a Boolean. So I'll say false in the beginning. And this is logged in. See that? If we're logged in, then we're going to display the logout button. Otherwise, we're going to display the login form. So we have a, this is one-liner, isn't it? I'm going to take that out. So there we have it. And let's see, so this should display the login form again. Now let's suppose we logged in. It's not doing anything now, but let's suppose we do log in, and this login is logged in variable turns to true. Then we should display, and this is true, then we should display the logout button. Let's see if that works. And it does, look at that. See that? And that's working nice. Now there's another way to do this, and they use this function here. They use these ternary expressions. Maybe it makes it a little simpler in this code. They would do this. It would show, this is what you see in the documentation. Based on is logged in, right? If we're logged in, then we're going to show the logout button. Well, that should be a question mark. This is the ternary operator. It's like it's a conditional. So if logged in is true, we show the logout button. Otherwise, we show the login form. So, look at that. That's a simpler version. We need to return that, by the way. That's a simpler expression than all of that. I mean, it's more compact. And what's wrong with that? Unexpected token. Did I get that wrong? Maybe I get rid of this. That's it. That's how we do it. Now, let's see if that even works. It's okay. But normally, this variable is logged in is not kept out here as a global variable. It's kept as internal state. And we look at it like this. We go, this object, this app object, has a state variable, a state object. And in that state object, we're going to define is logged in. So is logged in will be initially false. Now, how do we set this state? Well, there's a function that's important, and it's called get initial state. That's a function. And basically what we have to do is return an object that has the initial state. Let's put these things in there. So we're going to return an object that has is logged in set to false. That's the initial state. I forgot that. We're going to return an object and this get initial state is a function, and that should be a comma. There we go. Still wrong. Oh, this is inside the function. This is inside that. This is an object definition. There's no semicolon there. So this is our object. The object has a single property, is logged in, set to false. And now we can use this expression, this.state is logged in. You know what? I don't like that is in there. It's just too much extra words to read. I just like this, logged in. All right, that's nice, logged in. Let's see if this is working. So logged in is true. It's false initially. All right. Now, let's show now what happens when we actually log in. Okay, let's try to switch the state. Let's assume any click results in a successful login. Oh, by the way, we don't need this global variable anymore. Right? That's not needed. So let's go ahead and do that. This is the login form, the logout button, and so we have this. So what we need to do here is we need a click handler on this submit operation. And let's do that. So we're going to have a on click equals, and there's going to be a function. We're going to call a function. We're going to call it the login. We're going to call it on login. That's the name of the function. Now this function we're going to define as part of this class. So along with the render method, we're going to have a function. You know what? I need to fix my tabbing here. So this should be all tabbed out by 1. This should be tabbed in there. And this should be further tabbed in there. And this should be tabbed in there as well, like that. Okay, I'm going to fix that up. So here, it's going to be on login. And this is a function. And we'll do something like, how about this? We're just going to do console.log login clicked. I'm just going to watch it. We're not going to do anything. We're just going to see if we can catch that event here. Okay. Now here's the thing. This function, this is a reference to a function. We don't use apostrophes there. What we need to do is we've got to pass in an expression. This object has a function named login. So this dot login. That's how you do that. So this tells the JSX compiler to evaluate this expression. And we want this is a reference to the object itself, this login form element, and the onLogin function within that element. So now when we click it, we should see in the console, it should say login clicked. Let's take a look at that. No errors. I'm going to click login. Login clicked. You see that right there? Got it. Okay, now let's do something a little more. We're going to actually set our state to logged in. Well, basically, we want to change the state variable up here to true. How do we do that? We're going to this app class here. If you look at its render method, you'll see it contains, it's the thing that creates an instance of the login form and the logout button. So we call that the parent, or the controlling parent, the owner. So this app class owns the Logout Button class and the Login Form class. And so, and also this class is maintaining this state, this logged in state. So when one of its children, when a child element, an owned element, wants to performs its job and changes the login state, it needs to communicate it up to this parent. So we're going to have a handler for that. So it's going to be we're going to call it something like we're going to call it on login, and that'll be a function. And when this function is invoked, it's going to we're going to change the state. We need to use this. So this object, this app class, the class, when we create the class, it has a render method, has a get initial state method, but it also has a method called set state, and that's added by React. We don't define that method. That's a predefined method. When this create class method runs, it's going to create an object with get initial state function, render function, onLogin function, and a set state function. And this is something that React defines, not something that we define. So we call it. So we call this dot set state, and we're going to pass in that state. And the state is going to be, these tabs are, I got to fix that. I got to fix these tabs. The state is going to be, to set the state, we're going to pass in an object there. And the object will be, logged in is now true. So we've got to tell the system, we don't need that semicolon. That's another mistake I made before. So I'm going to fix up the indentation here. All right, we're using the tab key for this, by the way. This is get initial state. And this is on logged in. This is the render method. So there we go. We set the state. That's how that works. We don't need 2 lines for that either, do we? Just to tighten it up a little. There we go. All right, now, so this onLogin event, we want that event handler, we want that to be called when this onClick method here, see? So what we're going to do is when this onLogin handler, this is click handler here, see, onLogin, when this runs, we want to call this, when it calls on this onLogin handler down here in the app class to be invoked, and we do it as follows. So we have a properties object that our owner, populates the data that we need. And one piece of data is a reference to the login handler. So it's on login. There it is. We're just going to run it. We're going to call the function right there. We'll say on login run. And now this reference, this reference to the onLogin function passed into us from our owner through this props object has to be specified down here, where we create an instance of the login form. We specify it as an attribute in this XML style syntax. So we're going to go. This is on login equals, and that has to be an expression. This dot on login. This is an instance of this app class. It's on login method, which is defined here, and we pass that to the login form component as a property called onLogin, so that in the login form component can dereference that property here because it's an attribute of this props object that gets created for it by the React library. Let's try it. This should log us out, right? I mean, this should. So once this thing. So now what we do here. Oh, wait a minute. We call this onLogin. What do we do? Inside onLogin, we actually set the state to true. Okay, let's see if that works. We have to reload. When we hit login, we set the state to the login. Now the logout is not working. Let's do the same thing with logout and get that to work as well. So we have an on logout event handler. We're going to set the state logged in to false, and that has to be passed to the logout button. So that's the logout button needs a way to invoke that logout function. And this is getting a little bit messy, so I'm going to break it into a long line. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to drop that down there. Maybe I'll do it something like this. I don't know if that's easy to read or not. We can get rid of the ternary operator and just have a big if-then, if-else clause in there. What do you think about that? Is that easier to look at? Let's see. So we could do it like this. We could do, it could look like this. If this dot state login. Now I want the easiest to read. Then return this guy. Else return this guy. Remember, return can't be on its own line there, right? So, well, unless we use parentheses. So I'm going to do it like that. Is that easier to read? That's easier to read, right? So I'll use that easier to read syntax. I think that's easier to read. Maybe to make it even easier, I'll line this up. How does that look? Maybe that's not easier. That part's not easier. I'll just revert that back. Revert that back there. That's getting too fancy for me. All right. So let's see. We just did a bunch of coding. Let's make sure that works. And log in. There we go. Now we got to get logout working. So it's similar up here. We need that click handler, right? Look at this. You got to grab that click handler. This code here is similar. So it's going to on-click, we're going to call the logout. And remember that, we're going to have this is on logout. And we're going to do props on logout. I just realized something. Oh, I need to fix the indentation here. Look at that. All right. It's very convenient to use the tab key there. This, we didn't need to actually define this function there. We could have just done this. See that? We could have just done that, see, directly. And but that's not going to work in the long run because we need to add an AJAX call in here. And so that's going to, that means we're going to need more business going on there. So we're going to have to flush this out with a call to AJAX, with a call to the server using AJAX. All right, let's see if onLogout works. Oh wait, did we fix the function there? Yeah, we did. So on logout, we set the logged in to false. All right, let's see if that works. So we log in and we log out. Look at that, it's working. Look at that. Now we got to hit the, now we got to really hit the web server, right, and get that whole thing working. So I'm going to